Hey, I'm Logan.
And I'm this microphone.
Okay, so look, we
microphone is sentient.
We have like one listener that actually knows who we are, so we should probably be a little bit more like real with our introductions.
I'm Alyssa, the microphone that's sentient.
Okay.
And I do this podcast. You talking to me, and I talk into the computer.
All right. This is an episode of The Marketer's Cut, take 14. This week we're talking about
Men.
We are talking about men. Let me rewind a little bit and just say what this podcast is about real quick. It's a movie marketing podcast. We talk about marketing and movies and what they could have done better or what they did well and what maybe we would do better or worse.
For richer or for poor.
Okay. So, yeah, this movie that we're talking about this week, these movies are both called The Invisible Man.
Weird. Do you think they're about the same thing?
It's a pretty wild coincidence, if you ask me. So we're talking about the 2020 Invisible Man and the first Invisible Man adaptation from 1933, based on the novel by H.G. Wells.
Oh, I'd love to check that out.
The novel?
Yeah, I mean, see how different it is.
Yeah, I think
from these movies.
We'll get into it and stuff, but I do think the 1933 one is a little bit more of an actual adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we'll get into it. So the 2020 Invisible Man is directed by Leigh Whannell. He's known from the Saw franchise. He also recently directed the movie called Upgrade. And a lot of the camera work that you see in Upgrade, a lot of the technical feats of Upgrade are kind of utilized in The Invisible Man as well. Here's a synopsis from Imdb. When Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune, she suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turn lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she is being hunted by someone nobody can see.
Ooh, spooky.
Yeah, so that movie came out February 28th, 2020. Little fun fact, it's the last movie that I've seen in a theater.
Not me.
I don't even know what the last one you saw was.
Me neither. Last Christmas?
I think you saw something in... we definitely saw 1917 in 2020, so it might have been that.
Ooh, that's true.
All right, so the 1933 version, same title, The Invisible Man, directed by James Whale, and here's the synopsis. A scientist finds a way of becoming invisible, but in doing so, he becomes murderously insane. Fun.
Very fun, yeah.
Very fun. This came out on November 13th, 1933.
So, 11, 13, 33.
Yeah, those are just numbers.
Wow.
Okay.
But it's kind of cool.
It is cool because it's the movie came out almost 90 years ago. Or is it? I don't feel like doing the math in my head right now.
Yeah. No, that's right.
So a couple notable things about this one before we get into how we're going to switch up this week's episode. This kickstarted Claude Reigns' career. So Claude Reigns is who played the Invisible Man in this movie. Mostly voiced the Invisible Man. But he's known from later films like Casablanca and everything. So, yeah, and like I mentioned, it's based on the novel by H.G. Wells, which, H.G. Wells now is, old shit to us. But then, it was just,
he was
kind of
new shit.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it was, late 1800s that H.G. Wells was writing and everything.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, this is still, 30, 40, 50 years after some of his works are written. But yeah, so another quick thing about Whale, he helmed multiple Universal horror films after the success of Dracula in 1931. So he directed Frankenstein, The Old Dark House, The Invisible Man, like we just mentioned, and The Bride of Frankenstein. And he was a big part in why a lot of these movies are so iconic still today, and it kind of helped kickstart or help get Universal out of the rut that the Great Depression had kind of caused Universal and many other studios around it. Okay, so do you want to hear how we're going to switch up this episode?
I'm ready to. Well, I can hear it because I am the ears of this podcast. You talking to me, and I put it to the computer.
Okay. So normally we talk about both movies in two separate segments. We talk about, their box office numbers, what they did in terms of marketing, what they could have done, maybe some marketing blunders or failures. Um, so a lot of stuff like that. And it was kind of hard to find a lot of that stuff for the 1933 Invisible Man. And I saw that as kind of an opportunity to, instead of talk about marketing, talk about the market of horror
Ooh.
films.
Wasn't it crashing around this time?
Well, this is around the time horror was growing. So, Universal was having some problems as a studio, but a lot of horror movies brought it out of those problems. But I mean, I'm going to start a decade before in the 20s.
Okay.
And just to kind of see what leads up to Invisible Man. And then we're going to jump ahead 70, 80, 80-ish, 85-ish years and talk about what Universal tried to bring back with the Dark Universe.
Okay.
Okay. So let's jump right into it because there's a lot to cover. So I was kind of looking, and this things that led up to this boom of Universal horror movies really kind of started with horror as a genre. So like from the beginning, when film was growing into its own, something called trick films are really big and impactful. And like a trick film was just like, hey, what can we do on camera that like makes the audience go like, ooh, like how'd they do that? Because like cameras were or like video was so new at the time. So there's some notable ones, like one where some guys like trying to eat the audience. I don't know if you've ever seen that in like a film history class or something. So there's stuff like that. So those trick films were sort of big, and you can kind of see how those start and then how you start to get into horror, because like a lot of dramas and everything, like they don't require a lot of crazy special effects. You maybe need to make it look like it's snowing or they're in a certain area, a certain location. But this movie, like a man's literally invisible, which
I'm sorry, wait, what's the title of the movie again?
The Man of Invisibility.
Hmm.
But in the 30s, that's not super easy to pull off. So that's kind of the first thing that kind of leads into like why these movies were so iconic at the time and still are today. Now here, this, and I don't know a ton about this stuff. I did some cursory research, so I'm doing my best here. But now we're going to talk about German Expressionism, and these are some popular films. From the name, you can guess that they're German. One is called Das Dabinet des Dr. Caligari. Probably really goofed up on that name. It came out in 1920, directed by Robert. I'm going to guess because it's German, it's like Vienna or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it looks like Ween.
It does look like Ween. So this movie was called by Roger Ebert, who is a renowned film critic. It was called the first true horror film by him. That was like a worldwide success. It did really well. You get some other films. There was a trilogy of films that ended in 1920. The third one is called The Golem, How He Came into the World. It's the final film of the Der Golem trilogy. Another big one in the 20s that was big. And then...
Nosferatu.
Yes. No, that one is also another popular film from the 20s. It was an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Unauthorized is the key word because we're going to talk about the first authorized adaptation of it pretty soon. I actually think next. No, not next. My bad. So those are some German films that came out in the early 20s that sort of helped shape the landscape for horror films.
Okay.
Now we're moving into Universal, which is the studio we've been talking about this whole time. The Universal Classic Monster Silent Era. So you have films like Hunchback of Notre Dame. I just like college football fans, they call it Notre Dame. You know? But we live in Georgia, and we went to UGA, and I guess we can't expect UGAers to call it the right name. You know what I'm saying? Zing. That was a zinger.
Okay. Yeah. What were you saying?
And then Phantom of the Opera, a classic. One called The Cat and the Canary, which became known as like the cornerstone for Universal Horror. Like it was kind of the template, for what they like to do. Then you have a couple others called The Man Who Laughs and The Last Performance. All of these had a huge impact on like cinema at the time and cinema later. Some of these were huge influences for Hitchcock, who directed some great horror films in the 50s and 60s. The smile for the Joker, like in the DC comics, came from these movies. They were iconic. I've been talking a lot. You have anything you want to add? Do you have any questions that I can not answer but try to?
Nope.
None at all?
No, I mean, I have things I want to say, like, it's weird because I didn't think The Invisible Man was that spooky, but they're like, this is a spooky movie. I thought it was kind of hilarious.
So, a big thing about this is, and from what I'm reading, is that like the way we view horror now is like spooks and scares and everything, like spooky, scary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is different than what horror was like then, and I think horror around this time was more based on like the concept of the trick film.
Yeah, and it seems also, it seems like if you actually saw an Invisible Man in real life, that shit would be spooky. However, I thought it was kind of funny in this movie because the lady kept screaming, she kept going, ah! And you're like, oh, okay, well, she needs to calm down a little bit. She's being a little over dramatic here. I mean, it's just an invisible man.
So the comedy was intentional, like it made it stand out. So.
Okay.
Cool. So that covers pretty much everything in the 20s. Now I want to move into the Universal Classic Monsters like golden age of horror era. And this is when we start to see the films that allowed for a movie like The Invisible Man to be made and kind of paved the way for its success.
Okay.
So first, in 1931, kick off the whole thing, give Dracula, the relatively...
I want to suck your blood.
Surprisingly good accent again there. Wow.
Thank you very much. I didn't practice that either.
So there were two versions of this movie that came out. There was an English version and a Spanish version. The English one came out in February, in the second month of the year, 1931.
Februario?
Yeah. And the Spanish version came out in April. So both of these movies shot on the same set. This isn't marketing related. This is just fun stuff. But they both shot on the same set. And English shot during the day. The Spanish version shot during the night. And the Spanish crew would look at the dailies from the English set and pretty much see like what they could do better, what they messed up on, like how they could make a better movie, and used all that to make presumably a better movie. And now I really want to watch both of these because like it's probably a better movie.
I love that. I do want to see what it is.
Yeah, that was cool. And then later in November, I believe November of 1931, we get Frankenstein, which is James Whale's first entry into the Universal monster movie universe.
Was he really a monster, or was he...
Well, I think everyone could argue that Frankenstein is the real monster.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, is he... Who's really the monster here?
In 1932, James Whale directed The Old Dark House, and then another movie non-whale related, The Mummy, came out as well. And that's where we get into our topic movie of this episode, The Invisible Man, 1933. So this movie did really well. I couldn't find specific box office numbers for it, but it did well. It was a hit. People loved it. People were fascinated by the special effects and how they made a man invisible. How'd they do it? Everything. And
CGI. It was CGI.
It wasn't, but all right.
Well.
The Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie, and we've talked about this with older movies before, like Citizen Kane on this show. Go listen to our Citizen Kane episode. But like Rotten Tomatoes obviously wasn't around in 1933, so like these scores aren't comparable to like a Rotten Tomatoes score for The Invisible Man 2020 or something like that. But it's got a 94 critic, 85 audience. So still pretty good.
Still pretty good, but we know who's seeing them, so...
Yeah, it's people that are Typical what? You gonna talk down on us horror fans some more?
No, I'm just saying it's typical of a rating to look like this when it's older and Rotten Tomatoes wasn't around during that time. I'm not saying
Yeah. There are probably a lot of movies that just don't have any Rotten Tomatoes scores at all.
Please don't treat me like that ever again.
Treat you like what? I just remember you were talking down on us horror fans when we did our
I'm not talking down anyone.
our Blood Quantum episode.
I love horrors.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. I love horror people.
Okay. So then after Invisible Man, you get like Bride of Frankenstein, which was kind of the first sequel that you see in this era. And then there was a kind of a decline in the late 30s. And Universal's like, what do we do? And then in the 40s, they brought a bunch of sequels for these movies back. You get like The Invisible Man Returns, and I think you definitely get more Frankenstein movies, and they start capitalizing on like these movies that they know do well. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound like something studios do today?
No.
No?
Not even Universal anymore does this.
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen Despicable Me 1, 2, and 3 and the Minions also.
Okay. So, yeah, it seems like we just talked about a lot. But one, like, we learned a lot. We learned a lot along the way.
I'm always learning, buddy.
That's true. And two,
I don't have a brain. I'm actually just a microphone.
These films... Okay, I don't... These films laid the groundwork for the Invisible Man remake that we just watched, the 2020 movie. And I thought that was kind of a fascinating thing to look at. Instead of looking at like marketing for these movies, looking at the situation in which the studio says, "Yeah, let's make this movie." Mm-hmm. Nice little topic change for us.
Switching it up.
Yeah. Zag on them, I like to say.
We can't. That's copyrighted. We're gonna get sued for this. Okay, let's hurry before they find it.
So now we're talking about the Dark Universe, and the Dark Universe was something that Universal announced nearly 10 years ago at this point, and it was trying to capitalize on the success mainly of the MCU. So you see all these movies that Marvel's doing, and there's a big team up movie. And the Avengers, and then you get all these other movies where, like, there's the universe is all connected and stuff. And Marvel was a huge success. DC also started trying to do the same thing, and a lot of people criticize DC for like rushing into it and not like building it up and giving it like the time that Marvel gave it and everything.
Mistake. Hey guys, in the future, that's gonna be a mistake.
Or Universal could tell you that as well, because they were like, hey, let's do the Dark Universe, baby. And so the first movie is Dracula Untold. Do you even remember that movie?
Nope.
See, I worked at a theater when it came out. I remember asking my boss for a poster, and he was like, you can only have this poster if you take the Dracula Untold poster as well. So I have a Dracula Untold poster, I think, somewhere in my parents' house.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this was like the first movie of like the Universal Dark Universe. Like, we're gonna do all these monster movies again. They're all gonna connect. It's gonna be so cool. It was made on a budget of $70 million. It made $217 million total, but only $56 million of that was domestic, which is sort of it's a disappointment. They were expecting it to make more than that, for sure. Rotten Tomatoes, 25 critic, 58 audience, A- cinema score.
How? We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, we don't. We'll move into the next one, which was The Mummy, which is an even more recent movie that I think you remember less than the Dracula one.
I know of The Mummy. I don't know that they made a Mummy Tom Cruise.
Yeah, this one has Tom Cruise in it. It had Russell Crowe in it.
Wait, so when did the other Mummies movies
They were like
out?
late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, and then they were like, let's do The Mummy again?
Yeah, no, because this is part of the Dark Universe.
Okay, okay, that was stupid.
So they upped the budget for The Mummy. This one's got Tom Cruise. It's got Russell Crowe. $125 million. Total gross was $409 million, so it made more. But it still only made $80 million domestically. Now, this had worse critic and audience scores, 16 critic, 35 audience, and a B- cinema score, so a whole grade, letter grade below Dracula Untold. So, around this point, Universal was like, this isn't doing what we want it to do. People aren't connecting with these the way that we want them to connect with it. The Invisible Man movie for 2020 had already been announced, but it was originally announced to have Johnny Depp play the Invisible Man.
Ooh.
And if you're casting Johnny Depp in this movie, I don't think that movie is the same movie that we got.
I agree.
I think it was actually going to be more of a faithful's the wrong word, because I don't want to talk shit about what this movie did, because I love how this movie adapted it. But it would have been more like true to the 1933 film, more true to the H.G. Wells novel, where it focuses on the Invisible Man just going wild, I guess, because he's invisible.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'm not the biggest Johnny Depp fan anymore, but there are still a lot of people who love Johnny Depp and would have loved to see him doing something like that.
Yeah.
But no, Depp was eventually things changed. They got Leigh Whannell to do this movie. We talked about it earlier. He was well known from the Saw franchise. Just made Upgrade, which was like pretty critically acclaimed and a pretty fun movie. So they gave him big budget, a $7 million budget to make this movie. But this movie made $143 million total, which is less than both of the previous ones. But if you're looking at your return on investment, way better.
Yeah.
$70 million domestic. So it made 10 times its budget domestic, while the other ones made like 25% of its budget, or about half of its budget, you know? Invisible Man was a success, and that's even considering the fact that in the middle of its theater run, theaters closed down.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
This Rotten Tomatoes score is 92 critic, 88 audience, B+ cinema score. That bothers me a little bit. I don't completely understand it, but we're not going to dwell on it.
Well, hey, guess what? A- while having a 25.58
Yeah.
doesn't make sense either, homeboy. So we just go with it.
I never saw it, but I really want to see it to see like what people got that A- out of, because man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story of the failure of the Dark Universe. And we went through the 20s and we went through the 30s to figure out how we got here to this point. And I thought it was a fun journey.
It was a fun time.
Exactly. So now I think we should talk about how we'd market either the 2021 or the 1933 one, or a new one, however you do it. So you start.
Okay, so what if it's obvious. You make a man invisible.
A real man?
Point blank.
You just make a
Period.
real
I don't
man.
know what else the fuck to say. You make the man invisible. You have him terrorizing people, but like in a fun way, more kind of like what the first one did, in the 1933 version. Like make it more fun. Like this man's like knocking off your hat, and that's funny and also terrifying. But that's an invisible man. They made that for this movie.
So you want to make a town like you
okay,
know?
I'm taking it all back.
You don't want to terrorize a town?
No, it'd actually be really scary, and I don't think we should do that. And what if you can't make him invisible again? I just
What
don't.
if he's just stuck like that?
What if he can't get the antidote together? He takes the medicine, he can't get the antidote together. I take it back.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please do.
So I think in the month leading up to the movie, so I'm gonna give a little example of something. Do you remember the pop star interviews with like Lonely Island, where they like throw in fake Jimmy Fallon quotes?
Yeah.
And they like do it at every interview, and then at the end of like their press tour for the movie, they're like, "Hey guys, look at what we did. We did this for every interview. You guys didn't even notice it." So I think when you're getting close to releasing this movie, you're like, "Hey guys, the Invisible Man was on every late night show episode this entire year." And they're like, "Where was he at?" And you're like, "Well, he's right here. He's just standing behind the host right here." And he's like, "Oh, he's right here. He's sitting on the chair right here." It's like, he's everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, that would be good. Just like have something. I don't know how you make the little imprint in the chair. Make the chair to where it looks like someone's sitting in it. Always.
No, I was thinking you don't coordinate this with the late night shows. You're just like, he was on it, and they're like, "No, stop fucking using our name. We didn't do anything with this." You know, like, no, he snuck on. He was there.
No, it would
can't prove
be
it wrong.
so good if you have it to where like it looks like the seat's being pressed down. Like they form the cushion and it looks like there's pressure on it, and like
That
someone's
shot in
sitting
the trailer.
there. Yes, and like you're just like, wow, he really was there. I didn't even notice him.
So we watched the trailer for the 1933 movie, and at the end it has a shot of just the pants skipping down the road, and you mentioned that it reminds you of Onward. Do you think that Onward is like an intentional like product placement for the Invisible Man?
Nope, not even close.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Okay, moving on. Okay, I have another idea. This is one of the most real ideas I've ever had on this podcast, so I hope you're ready.
I don't know if I am.
No, it's like a seriously real idea that I think
I
would
know, I just don't know if I'm ready for it.
So I wrote something on like my personal blog when I was writing stuff for like marketing classes and everything a while ago about standees in theaters and how like cool some standees are and how the ones that like get people to take pictures with it are probably the most successful. Like I don't know where to find the metrics to like attribute a movie's success to like its standee, but you can think of like the standee for the Meg, and there's like a big shark head that you can stand inside and take a picture
Oh,
with.
I remember the Meg.
Yeah, I know you do. So I'm thinking a standee for the Invisible Man, and maybe you have like a string or like a thin clear like piece of plastic that has like a fedora, like a hat on it. And then you also have like a clear kind of shoulder shaped thing that is, where like the shoulders would be under the hat, So like to a camera, maybe you can see it a little bit, but it's clear, so it's easy to ignore. And then you can have people come up and take pictures with it, and they can rest their arm on
that'd be cool.
on the clear thing, so that it looks like they're taking pictures with an Invisible Man.
That would be actually really cool.
Yeah, it's like a real standee that some theater employees somewhere are gonna pour their blood, sweat, and tears into to build.
Honestly, no, listen to me. That sounds like one of the easiest standees. If you're just putting this on like fishing wire and hanging it from the ceiling, as long as you have a big enough
Look, we could have done
ladder.
that on our own. We could have built it ourselves when we worked at the theater.
That's what I'm saying is like other ones, those like box cardboard bullshit. I mean, that literally will take you 4 hours to put together because it's like A goes into B, goes into F, goes into J. This, you literally, it's hooked up. You just hook in a little thing. You put it in the ceiling, big old ladder. You're done.
Yeah.
Boom, bam, pow.
It's amazing. Now, what would be really cool is, oh man, I'm trying to figure out how to do this.
Okay.
So you design some registers, some for concessions, that can be remote controlled.
Okay.
All right. And then you have a little speaker kind of behind the register. So somebody comes up and they're ordering from an Invisible Man, and they're like, hey, I wanted some popcorn, and then you're remote controlling the register, so you're ringing everything up and everything. You can't pay with cash because you can't get change back, so no cash at this one.
Invisible men are stupid.
Yeah, they can't count. No,
Cannot count.
this man went murderously insane. It says in the 1933 one. So like he's not gonna count some change.
Yeah, he forgot how to count.
But you're taking their order and everything, and then you have a little speaker, and you're like, hey, Timothy, and that's the floor staff that's working back there with you, and you're like, hey, give me some popcorn and give me this box of candy for this person, and they give it to the person, and they just have their order taken by an Invisible Man.
Good. Decent idea.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not as good. The standee one's a real good idea. Universal.
Well, now I'm thinking about the flaws in the standee one. All the ceilings are gonna be different sizes.
No, you don't hang it from the ceiling. The standee has like a cardboard. It's like a flat card standee where it's just flat, except you get a little thing coming up over the top that you can hang something from.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know about all that.
Do you have any other ideas for these flicks?
Well, now it's pissed me off that you're gonna really still make these floor staff employees build the standee. I mean, damn, it's still hard.
The flat cards are the easiest one. So if it's just a slightly modified flat card, that's what they're called. They're called flat cards, right?
I don't name them, sir.
Well, they're not. You don't name them. I don't name them. They have a name.
Well, I don't know. I wish we would, it's kind of cool what the Invisible Man looks like in the 1933 one, where he's wrapped in bandages and he has, those goggles and, the hat. And, I mean, just, normal clothes. But I think that's really cool. I don't know. I mean, I feel like you see that every once in a while. But, if people started, that became popular and people started dressing like that for Halloween, Like, I want that.
People do, though.
I feel like not a lot.
No, because there was a movie that came out, I believe in the late 2000s, maybe the early teens, called the Unbelievable League of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, something like that. And it was like a bunch of like monsters together, and like the Invisible Man was like one of the people in this like league, and I'm pretty sure.
You know, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm also thinking he might have been in Hotel Transylvania.
I do think he was.
Oh,
it's just called The League of Extraordinary. I thought late 2000s. This was a 2003 film.
Yeah, but I've never seen it, so.
See, we're looking at the poster right now. Do you see the Invisible Man right here?
Yeah, it's just a hat.
It is just a hat. Yeah.
I just really like that costume idea. I think it's really cool. I mean, obviously, there's no way you could actually use that costume and go out and be like, look, I'm invisible, and you, like, start taking it off. But, like, something like that. I don't know. I think that character is really cool and the costume design for it, and I wish in this day and age we could do something more with it. But obviously, the movie's in 1933, and Hitler was around, and so there's so much you can do, and Hitler's there.
What? Okay. I don't know what you're talking. Okay.
Is that when, you know, you get me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's when he became chancellor.
Around, I think it was 1933, I think.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's what I'm saying. Hitler came, and then you just forget.
Okay. Wow. I just want to say one more thing, that we can wrap it up. I think it'd be cool if you maybe had like let's just say a bathroom stall, you know?
Okay.
In the theater, you know? Your opening night, Invisible Man.
You're really into like this movie theater marketing.
Yeah, no, I think there's some really cool in-theater marketing ideas for this one.
Okay.
You have some guy walk into the lobby. You know, sometimes you go to a Marvel movie and you see like somebody dressed up in like an Iron Man costume. You go to a Star Wars movie, you see someone dressed up as like a stormtrooper out in the lobby. You have someone dressed up as your normal old Invisible Man. You know, bandages, goggles, everything. And people are fascinated, all right? And then, you know, invisible people got to pee or poop too.
Okay.
So he walks into the bathroom, all right? And he shuts the stall door. Somebody's following him because, again, they're fascinated with him. So you take all the bandages off, all right? And throw them on the ground. Boom, there's a trap door in the bathroom. So this person unhinges the stall door. And then slides down the trap door, and as he's sliding down, he like pushes the stall door open, so it opens up, and people think like the Invisible Man's walking out of there, and he left his bandages in there because like he just got tired of wearing them.
That's a bad idea.
What?
All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you to Jesus.
There's a puppy in our room now, and he's breathing very heavily. I think she's good though. Did you say thank you to Jesus? Okay. So this has been an episode of The Marketer's Cut. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Marketer's Cut. Find the podcast anywhere you can find podcasts or on YouTube. Learn more at marketerscut.com. I want to thank Jacob Wall for his art. Find more of his stuff on Instagram at Jacob Art Wall. He's done some really cool stuff recently that I've seen on there. Coming in on Instagram a bit more recently, and like he's always knocking it out the park. So
Out the park.
I just want to point out that the theme song is made by me. If you want some podcast theme songs, hit me up.
Or music for anything. He does films now.
I can rap. I can sing. I can play
Please
guitar.
don't
I can play
pay
bass.
him to rap. You're not gonna get anything. It's not worth free. Don't do it.
Okay. We do not know what we're doing next week yet. We're looking at Earwig and the Witch, which is a new Studio Ghibli film, but that will require us to probably watch 2 movies this week, so we might save that for another week. We'll do something cool though. We promise you guys. Thank you for listening, Alyssa. Do you want to do a non-podcast related sound with your new microphone? Just to get your money's worth out of your new mic to lead us out.
Yeah. Now, see, this one's not gonna seem normal because I've never seen any other dog do this before. But I'm gonna make the same noises that this puppy in our room is making right now. She's going. She's not like sniffing. It's like she's like breathing really fast.
Yeah.
And so like if you ever are like, you know, it'd make it seem like a puppy's here. See, she's being so loud. It's like,
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up now. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening.
peace.